All right.
Looks like we're live. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hi. Welcome back to our channel.
I'm gonna wait a little bit to make sure that we're live.
All right. So, what's up?
Yeah, I see it's going.
Yeah. Write something into the chat.
Yeah, I see Wynand is already
Maybe
here.
Say some hello to other. Our, how many people?
Okay, so we got we were having like 10 waiting, and I see that 3 is now watching. 4. I guess the counter will go up a little bit later. So today we were going to show you a new section on the demo portal that we've made over the past week. It's called customization. This is a little bit of work in progress at the moment. We are going to be adding more CSS variables to provide more fine control over the looks, and we will add some more DI tokens to customize your experience with Taiga. So I think Roman gonna share the screen, and we will go over the customization section so you can see what you can do to alter how Taiga UI looks for your applications.
Well, I think yes.
Yeah, I see the screen.
Works. Let's start.
Yeah, so on the left menu you see customization section, and there's 5 pages there. First is internationalization. There's not much here yet, but there's a link to the README file where you can see we added a new package. It's called I18N. And there you can find the token for English language and for Russian language.
First of all, you don't need to install anything because it's just a dependency of Taiga UI core package. That's why you can just continue using our library if you need English language, and you can customize it now, or if you need to customize your language or do some
you can even contribute the translation if you want.
Alright.
Can you tell about the API, how it looks like?
Now we have English by default and Russian language, because we work in Russia and in a Russian company. So now I can show how to use it. If you have a language, for example, if you need Russian language now, you can just import TUI language from Taiga UI internationalization package and provide it with the stream. We have an observable here because we have an opportunity to change it on the fly. So you can change, for example, a language of all Taiga UI packages, of all our components. If user changes some settings, for example, switches language with a select or toggle.
Yeah, the API is just observable, so it should work with Transloco and other tools that you have.
The simple case is when you need just a language, you can make off observable from RxJS and wrap a language with this function. And moreover, if you need some more languages, you can just add it. Here you can read simple instructions about how to do it. But anyway, we are ready to help. Write us in Discord, issues, discussions, something like that.
Or just Twitter.
Yeah, we can help. For the process is something about you copy our folders and just make some translations in dictionaries. And you need to export it and just release a new version of package.
Yeah, so overall there's not much text in our packages, so it's not that big of a task. And more internationalization settings are coming. I know that some people need to be able to place the currency symbol in front of the number, and there are different formats for day. In USA, the month goes first, so this is still coming up. it's not yet available, but it's in the plans. So that's it about the internationalization. And the next section is variables. This is something we will be expanding upon. Currently, we had a page for colors. There's a link there to see all the colors that are available in Taiga UI. And here you can see other variables, the height, the font face, and the rest. We will be adding here, as I mentioned. And below you see the override example, how you can switch your Taiga UI to something different. You see there are no border radius on the checkbox, the font is different, and the input is much taller. So this can be done with CSS variables, and they are hierarchical, so you can override them at some section of your page and leave the rest untouched. You can see in the less tab, there is just an override for the host element. So for this current example, those variables are changed. I see Comic Sans is not available on Mac, so be careful with that. And how you can do that on your application is the best way to provide dynamic themes if you want to be able to change them, like if you want to enable high contrast mode or something like that. You can use Theme Switcher, and with the current release, we've added theme night that enables night mode. It's there on the demo portal, and it uses that theme switcher, like I said. It's an abstract class from CDK package, and it allows you to create components with encapsulation none, so those styles will be global. And with simple ng if, you could control if these are enabled or not. Sorry. The abstract class does all the heavy lifting for you. It would add those styles to the head of the app, of the HTML. If the component is present, and if you remove it with ngIf, it would remove those styles on destroy hook. So this is something you can do dynamically, like I said, with night mode that will be shipped. Already shipped in today's version, which is 2.3, I believe. And you can create your own dynamic themes like that. Apply any styles you want on the fly, not just the variables, overall global styles. So this is all about CSS variables. Like I said, I'm going to expand on them, but we need to see first which areas we need to cover more with variables that can be changed. I'm gonna take a look at the chat. So we are showing code examples on the demo portal. We're not showing any editor, I believe. So there's a question from Finn. Yeah, actually, I was going to discuss that with you later to see what do we need to get the design you have done, because I can only do some theoretical plans on what people might need, but in your case, you actually have a design that you want to port to Taiga, so it's a good study case. So I'm not yet sure what variables we'll be adding, but we'll see. And the next section is the interesting one. It's called wrapper. Yeah, let's disable night mode. It's easier to understand like that. So this is a bit of a complex thing. Many our components, like buttons, checkboxes, inputs, they use an internal component called wrapper, and it is responsible for displaying interactive state. So it has different styles applied to it depending on if it's hovered or if you press the button. If it's an input field, then it can be invalid through validation, or it can be read-only, disabled, and things like that. And there's also optional mode, like you saw, the night mode. It's not just variables override. Components have different look depending on the mode. So many of components supported, like accordion, input fields, and some buttons, checkboxes, things like that. So this is basically what you get when you import a Taiga UI theme. You get global styles for those wrappers for different appearances. And in that page you can see that this element, the TUI wrapper element, it might have a class applied to it, class focused. It is when it's focused, and not just regular focus, but focus visible, like you maybe read from the specs. It recently shipped to Chrome. It means that it's not applied to a button that is focused with a mouse. Only if you focus it with a keyboard and an input fields, it always applied when they're focused. There's also invalid class for invalid validation on input fields, and there are 3 attributes that control this whole thing. It's data appearance. This is an appearance string. It can be any string, and some of those are shipped with Taiga UI theme. There's data mode. It's optional. It can be not present at all if there is no mode applied, or it could be on dark or on light strings. And there is a data state attribute. It is responsible for mutually exclusive interactive states. So it's either nothing, or it's hovered, or it's pressed, or it's read-only, or it's disabled. So it cannot be like read-only and hovered, because this is how the design is made. If it's read-only, it's non-interactive for most part. So what you can do with it, you see below the example of our components imitating material design. There's an input field, there's a checkbox, which even has some slight halo when it's focused or hovered. And there's a button which also imitates material in all its states. I mean, you can hover it, press it, or focus it with keyboard. It gets a little bit lighter, just like material does. And you can see in this example, in HTML there's nothing really there, just a regular Taiga UI components. And in less, you can see global unencapsulated styles. This is how you do it. So you could create a TUI wrapper and apply some custom appearance to it. In this case, it's a material text field and material button, material checkboxes. And in case of button, you can apply appearance directly as an input, because they often change. And in case of input or checkbox, it goes from the dependency injection. By default, it's text field, but you can provide a different value through token. I see there's no TypeScript tab here, and we gotta fix that. If Roman can show this example in VS Code, we could take a look how it's done. And actually, let's open it first so I can talk you through the example. Yeah, so this is the wrapper component on demo portal, and we need to go to the example.
One moment.
In TypeScript. So you see in providers here, we provide a few tokens. First is text field appearance, and we just provide a string that would be used, and by default it's just text field. So technically, if you want to just override all text fields, you don't need to do that. You can just not import Taiga UI theme and create your own theme with all the CSS variables and your custom style for text field appearance. And there's also checkbox, and this one we're gonna extend. So right now it's off and on state. We would add a third one for indeterminate state, and we would add the same token for radio buttons. Right now they're using the checkbox appearance, but I know that it could look different, so it's good to have an option for it. We're probably going to add some other tokens like that, but we need to first investigate what needs to be, what do we need to be able to customize here. And let's take a look at the last example of styles for text field, how you can do it. So it's a wrapping element, as you get from the name. So it wraps around your component. So you could change background, you can change color for changing color of the text in the input field. And you can change border radius like we did here. And a cool thing is that you can also use before and after pseudo elements. Right now we use after to apply borders. We do it in our components as well to apply focus ring when you focus a button. And you see that it has it changes color on hovered state. You can apply it like that, and the after element changes it too. And there's one thing that we need to look into more is we do not have a good way to change the color of the placeholder of the label that is inside the input. You see there's an actual label tag there, and here we target it with important keyword, so the color is applied. It's not a good thing, and you see that to do comment there, so we're gonna think about how we can do that. And there's also an invalid case where the color changes to red. And in a checkbox, it's a little bit trickier. The material button is pretty easy. You just apply uppercase and box shadow and styles from material button. And in checkboxes, it's a tricky one. I've created a before element to apply the halo that you saw, and the after element to actually create the checkbox itself. So you can study that in DevTools, see how it's done. So with that wrapper component, you have basically control over 3 elements. So you have the wrapper itself, which you can change colors, border radius, and things like that. You can apply some custom borders, shadows. You can add some different styles on after and before pseudo elements to further customize the way your component should look. So it's pretty powerful tool that you can use. As you saw in this example, the checkbox of material looks a little bit different from ours. It has a halo of different color when you hover it, press it, and this is all can be done with simple CSS applied through that wrapper element. So I know this is something that people might need to digest to understand how to use. It's a little bit tricky, more tricky than just override the variables. So, but it allows you more control over the way things look. I'm gonna take a look at the chat, see if there are any questions.
There are a couple of them.
Yeah, I see that. What if you need to add additional DOM elements to imitate? So this is something you cannot do right now. And if you have some design examples that you have troubles recreating, we can take a look at them together if you want. Just write us in Discord and we will discuss that. We have to balance a little bit here to not overcomplicate things, but allow a reasonable amount of customization. And as you might imagine, this is not something we need at our work because we have our theme that we make. And what we do is here is capable of providing the customization that we need at our company. So it's not something that our heads gonna invest resources in. So if you have particular example that you're having troubles with, feel free to reach to us and we will think of solution we can have. So what do you need? Custom state implementations instead of using native states. Actually, some things we need to control over with TypeScript. For example, if we have a button with the drop down and we press it and we move cursor to the drop down, our design says it should remain pressed. So these things have to be controlled by variables. And there are other cases I'm not really sure right now which we need it for. But overall, hovered and the other things that are states related, they are something that we use from time to time and we cannot drop it. But if you want, you can use CSS native hover and active states because they also work. And if you feel like this is more comfortable for you using, then it's okay. But they are still there, they are working, and you can subscribe to a focus change on our elements, even if the focused element is actually somewhere inside the template, and you will not see the focus event because it does it doesn't bubble. And you can also subscribe to hover change and press change if you need something to control this. So this is what you have on all our interactive components. It's in the documentation for everything, where you see the inherited options from the abstract classes. So what's there? Makes sense. Okay. So this is the wrapper part, and the next one is dialogues. I've mentioned on the first introduction session that we have abstract constructions around dialogues, and you can create your own pretty easily. So here is an example how you can do it. Let's see how it looks like. So you have to choose wisely. And if it's absolutely, you have chosen wisely, of course. And if it's no way, then you have chose poorly. It's a reference to Indiana Jones. I don't know the age of average person on the stream. Probably you saw it. The third part is my favorite. So let's take a look at the example. So what do you do? We have an abstract class for services, for creating services of dialogues. And here you can go over step by step and see what you need to do. So let's scroll up. First, you need to define interface for options that your dialogues would have. This current example has an option for heading and for labels on the buttons, just an array of 2 strings. Then you need to create a component that would be used as a dialogue. And here the important thing is that it gets the context in the constructor through the polymorphous context token. And in that token, you get an object which has all the options that you have passed to the service, which we'll see later. It also have ID, uniquely generated ID that you would need for accessibility. It's not required. There's also content that would be shown in your dialogue, and an observer which you can use to pass data back or to close the dialogue from within. And there's also complete with. It's just an easy method alias for next and complete on observer, so you can use that. As you see in that code, you only have one function on click that emits data back and closes the dialogue. And you can see the HTML example of this dialogue is pretty simple. There you have an H2 element which you assign the ID, so the accessibility mechanisms work. And when you open this dialogue, then screen readers would announce that you are now in a modal window of that description. There's a polymorphous outlet which you use to show the content of that dialogue. It can be anything: a string, a template, or a dynamic component, function as well. Yes, like I discussed before with polymorphous, it's pretty cool. And there are buttons there as well which you could click. And this is just a simple implementation. And there are less styles, just very few. Simple animation to reveal. It comes from our global classes. Just a pop-up animation fade in that changes opacity, and some styles for how it looks like. So let's go back to the TypeScript and take a look what we need to do next. Then we create a service. You call it whatever you want. Right now it's prompt service, and it extends our abstract class, abstract TUI dialog service. You provide generic for options interface. You need to define one property, which is default options. It's an object of options that would be used by default because every key there is optional. And you provide a component that would be used. Right now, you see that we create a new polymorphous component and provide that prompt component that we just created. So this is a dynamic component that would be used to instantiate every dialog instance. Then you need to provide token. TUI dialogues. It's a multi-token. You can provide any amount of services you want to show dialogues, so you can mix those dialogues. You can use a built-in dialogue service. You can create your own. You can imitate some native dialogues with custom design, whatever you want. So you can mix that across the application. And there you have it. Now you just inject the prompt service in your components, and you call open on the dialog, pass the content and options, and you have it. That's what you can do. Keep in mind that these tokens are global, and you need to apply them in a global module, some app module, or anywhere. There could be some tricks with lazy loading because if you provide it in a lazy module, then our dialog host will not inject your service, so it probably doesn't work. And in terms of other tokens that you saw before, for text field customization wrappers, then they are hierarchical, so you can create sections on your page with one look for text fields, and in another section you can have a different design for your inputs. Do you have any questions on dialogues? I'll take a look at the chat. I don't see new messages. So I hope it makes sense for you and it's clear, not that you're overwhelmed with this. And of course, you can ask questions in comments to this video. It's gonna be up after the stream, and you can ask us questions on discussions on GitHub or join our channel on Angular Discord. And the last section is icon set. It's also a little bit tricky. So we use our TUI SVG component to display icons. It can show icons by name, by link, or by source code. And some icon names are hard-coded into Kit components, like the arrows, the calendars for date pickers, things like that. There's a full list of names for those icons. And actually, these are keys of two dictionaries. It's a TUI core icons. These are icons that are used in core package, and Kit icons. These are icons that are used in Kit and add-ons package. So you don't have to provide them all if you want to override icons with a different set, but you can just add them gradually when you use them. And you can control icons with CSS and set colors through CSS color. And there are two ways that you can add icons. So one is bundled with the app, and the other one is assets. That's what I use by default. So bundled icons, they are just SVG source code as a constant in TypeScript. So they go into the bundle of your app. It would increase it, but on the other hand, it would show immediately on the page. And if you use assets, it's a little bit like if you use an IMG tag with src. So it would load a little bit like in a moment, and it would use cache to display immediately next time you open it. And in both cases, you can control them with CSS, but you gotta make sure that your icons have a fill equals current color, or a stroke equals current color, so you can control it with color. Sometimes you can control it with fill if you want. I know probably Google icons, material icons use fill instead of color, so that's up to you. Whatever you make those icons. And if you want to bundle your icons with code, so you could just provide a TUI icon token with a dictionary where one side is a name and the other side is a source code for your icons. And you can also use assets, like I said, but this time you need to prepare your icons a little bit. There's a link to the script that you can run. It's a simple Node.js script that would wrap your icons with another SVG tag with an ID, so you could use it through SVG tag use, kind of like a style sheet. What's it called? Sprite sheet, right? But with each icon individual. You can actually make a single sprite sheet if you want. So how does it work? You provide a token called TUI icons path. And this is a function that takes name of the icon as an input and returns path to this icon. And this token is also hierarchical, so you can have icons of one set in one part of application, in the other part of application you have a different set. So you see the components below in an example using material icons. And we can take a look at the TypeScript tab to see how it's made. So let's open TypeScript tab. You see there's a simple mapper of the names of Taiga UI icons to the names of the files from material icon set. And there's a simple icon path function which takes the name, looks it up in the dictionary, and provides a path to the assets where you keep your icons. And you see there's a .svg, then there's a hash, and then there's another instance of the same name. This is how we process our icons. So there's a SVG with ID there that is inlined into use tag. So it's like a native inline in Shadow DOM. This way you don't have to perform any DOM operations, which are taxing to performance if you have a lot of icons on the page, and you still can color them with CSS. And you provide this token to icons path, and there you have it. Now it's gonna work. But like I said, if you use assets, you have to process your icons with a script that's on this page. So it's pretty simple. You just download it, put it in the folder of your icons, and run it with a node, and your icons should be processed. it works perfectly for icons. If you have any issues with that script, let us know. Create an issue or discussion. We'll take a look at it and see how we can improve it so it covers more cases. I see there's a last example here from the other page. We gotta remove that. Yeah, it's not necessary here.
Alright.
So I'm gonna see
questions.
see the chat. There are questions there.
Hi, thanks for the great session. Hi, happy to see you.
So, do you guys look into using SVG to TS? You can use it if you want on your icon set. We have our icons as constants. You can import them from icon package. I don't think we use SVG to TS, but we use some SVGO to optimize them and
SVGO.
yeah, SVGO.
SVGO. Okay.
and roll up and things like that to process them every time we release a package. So the icons are there in optimized constants. You can import them if you want. Next question. It's nice to have the icons customizable now, but it's a little weird that you override the icons using your icon names. What do you think about using the proposed option provider per component to provide the icons? It could even be a function that accepts the height of the component so that one can switch icons based on the component size. It's an interesting thing to think about. I cannot answer it right now. I don't really remember if you created this proposal officially on the GitHub. If you haven't, then please create a discussion and we will take it from there. If you have, then keep writing there your thoughts and we will discuss them later. And there's one more question here. Can anyone help me to guide to GitHub Angular project, an article or anything that can help me set up an overall architecture for a big new enterprise application? So I don't really have a link like that. It really depends on what you're going for. Basically all big projects, they follow similar pattern. You have lazy modules with some functionality that you could load when you need them. There are some tricks like preloading strategies. You separate your bundle into lazy sections and you have to organize the folders the way you feel comfortable with. I don't have any pattern that works for everybody. Maybe if Roman has anything to add here.
I can advise to visit in-depth portal and to read some maybe articles about Angular architecture or how to make some things in Angular. There are many interesting articles from some Google developer experts and just people who have much experience in Angular. So I think you can find something that you try to find. Well,
yeah, in-depth is a great source. There's a lot of articles, even some articles where if they were posted somewhere else but they are good, they are often reposted there, so it's like a main hub for great knowledge on Angular. You should take a look at it and study it.
Here question about Ionic and how Taiga behaves in that context, including customizations. Well, let me share my screen with TechBlitz.
So I don't have any experience with Ionic really, and I think Roman doesn't have it too. I know there's a Stack Blitz which you can start with Ionic. It's really outdated, but I created my own Blitz with a fresh version of Ionic and Angular. It's Ionic 4 something, right? And Angular 11. And I've ported our starter there. And it loads fine. It even picks the preferred mode, dark or light. And once we have a little bit more time, I will add the theme switcher there, I think, or something like that. So it works fine for me on that page. I see that everything works. You can click things, the drop downs or dialogues properly positioned, the variables for theme are applied, so that means you can apply your own theme as well. I don't really see why it wouldn't work. I know that there's a lot of things going on here inside Shadow DOM. So there could be issues with some correct position or focus tracking, because as you know, the Shadow DOM has its own active element. If you face any issues with it, let us know. I didn't face them. I tried everything there is in the starter and it seemed to work fine. If you have any troubles with Ionic, let us know and we will take a look. And if you have a particular question, feel free to ask.
It's an important thing. We are ready to support Ionic at all. I don't know how many things we need to do in our whole library, but if you have any troubles, any issues, please write us. We want to support this platform, and I think it's important for us to provide our solutions for everybody. So you're welcome.
So there are more questions in chat. Let's continue with that mobile thing first. So are Taiga components compliant with mobile interactions and gestures? They should be. I used it on mobile in regular web, not in Ionic, and it seemed to work fine with touch. The scrolls, the dialogues, clicks on the outlays, things like that. So it seems to be working fine. I haven't faced any issues. If you see any issues there, you can absolutely create a ticket, because we want to support mobile, and we have mobile apps in our company that use our components. Not mobile apps, I mean mobile versions of dashboards and things like that. Even the one app that imitates the native app, the hybrid thing. That's why we created those directives like Ripple and mobile calendars to be used in that app that imitates native applications. So there are some things for mobile specifically, and overall it should be working. And if you see any issues, like I said, you can create a ticket. There's a question from Finn. I read that you have worked on Taiga for quite a while now, and what caused you to finally push it to open source? We really wanted to push it to open source like a year ago, before this whole thing right now, when we were finishing 1.0 version after like 2 years of development. We were ready to land some version that we think is stable and major, but we didn't have resources to create a custom design for it. The designers were very busy and were not willing to spend time on creating a custom theme. We couldn't push it to open source with our proprietary theme, and we had to spend some time on creating those mechanisms for customization that we have now, because as you know, these components look different in our company. So even though we are still in process of developing those tools for customization, we had to create the wrapper mechanics, the icons, path, token, and things like that, so we can customize it. So we can create two different themes, one for open source, one for proprietary projects. And we had spent some time on that. We also had things that we thought were not mistakes, but some directions we went for that we thought we should change before we release the next major version. And once we got refactored all that, we finally managed to create like a 2.0 version. This one went to open source. So overall there's like 3 years of development, and there were 5 people at the start, then like maybe 2-3, and now there are just 2 of us, me and Roman. How much attention do you pay to accessibility during development? I don't have much experience with accessibility per specification. I read it. I tried to understand how the examples work, the roving focus theme, like some patterns for widgets, like we tried to follow that. All our components should be accessible through keyboard, and they should work fine with screen reader announcing where you are at the moment. It might not follow all the best practices, but it has like accessible hints, the tooltips, all the drop downs, dialogues, notifications, they're all accessible too. So if you are a blind person using a portal, if notification comes up, the announcer would read it to you. If you open the dialog, the focus will move there, and the screen reader would announce that you are now in a modal dialog and read the heading of it. That's why I shown an example that you need to assign ID to the heading, so the screen reader knows that this is the description of the dialog. So overall, we try to pay as much attention as we know, and if you have anything to contribute, if you see any issues or something is missing, please add a ticket, because we would like to learn more about this subject. This is something that we feel is very important, and this is an area to grow for us. But like I said, it should be fully accessible right now with keyboard and screen reader. So I don't see any new questions in chat. Please ask them if you have. We will wait a little bit before ending the stream. So I've created a new label on GitHub called live coding, and I'm gonna be marking issues that we plan to solve live. I'm not sure what the schedule will have, like how often and how long we would stream, but we want to do the live coding sessions.
10 hours of
yeah.
We have an idea.
So it's pretty cool that we can finally do this, and the community is there to share it with. It's really uplifting to know that you can share what you work on with people. So we plan to do some live coding sessions. If an issue is pretty clear, if there's no architectural decisions to be made, I would mark that with that label, so we can expect it to be on live coding sessions sometime. If there are some tasks that require us to think a lot and code a little, then it would not be live. We would have to come up with a solution first. But we would post them on this channel. We would announce them, so keep an eye on this YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe to not miss any live coding sessions. Final question from Finn. What is your roadmap for the near future? Right now, the biggest task we have is interactive table with filtering, sorting, and rearranging columns, things like that. We have a pretty good design specification ready, and we need to start implementing them. I think I was going to start it today, but I'll start it on Monday. I'm not sure how long it would take, because it's a pretty big task. A couple of weeks probably, and after it's done, we would need to look through all our internal tasks that we have on our plate, and probably create some better roadmap with some timelines and plans for the future. Right now I cannot say anything else other than tables. Coding sessions would be great. Yep. Message is deleted. Will the interactive table be similar to Angular material, or even better, type safe? So I don't really like looking at material source code really to see how things are done. I'm in touch with people in our fellow projects who use tables a lot to work with them, so I'm gonna try to come up with an API that suits their models most. But as usual, in Taiga we always try to make things as generic as possible. We use generics and polymorphics for view customization, so it should be flexible enough for any data model. If you have something to add.
Yes, it should be type safe, because we respect TypeScript and types, and we cannot work without it.
Yeah, all our libraries made with strict TypeScript enabled from the beginning, and we try to be strict as possible, so we don't have any accidental mistakes there.
Well, I don't see any more questions.
Okay, more?
No.
I'm interested in asking some more questions about your techniques and approaches, so there should definitely be more reserved time for such things through coding sessions. Yeah, we don't really have plan yet for how we would go over the code sessions, so we would of course be answering questions. We would try to share our patterns, how we approach things. We have a couple of articles explaining what philosophy we have when we create this library. You can look them up on Medium or in depth, and you can always join the Discord on Taiga UI and Angular overall and have a discussion there. So Chaz is leaving. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Yeah, if nobody has any more questions, then thank you all for coming up. The recording will be there, so if you have some questions, you can leave them in comments. We would check them for sure. And until the next time.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye.